What is up? Happy Sunday, Sooner Nation. Welcome to the Sooner Surge for a special edition as the bracket currently is being released, but we do know where OU is right now. OU, obviously, at home, sitting at the number 2 seed. Texas has been seeded as the overall number 1 seed, guys. I know, Hunter, you kind of expected this. I actually thought OU was going to land that number 1 seed. In the end, it is the Texas Longhorns as the overall number 1. OU's region gets underway Friday, 8 Eastern for OU to play, but there's a game at 5:30 Eastern, and that will be Boston University versus Oregon in the first game. OU plays the second game of that nightcap there against against Cleveland State, who just won, I think, the Horizon League today. I know you might have heard Beth Mowens mention they got a great two-way player, but so that's the OU region. OU, Cleveland State, Boston University, and Oregon out of the Pac-12, guys. Thoughts?
I mean, Boston's on a streak right now. So, I mean, still, it's Boston, Oregon they're good teams. Okay, don't get me wrong. OU's going to get through this region. I think the biggest question and what we had talked about before this was where would OU be seated? 1, 2, 3. I mean, there was a lot of debate kind of where they would end up, and they get the 2 seed overall, which they just beat Texas. I don't think it really matters at all to Oklahoma, to be honest with you. I think they're feeling pretty dang good after coming off the Big 12 tournament, and they're ready to roll for the postseason. So I think we'll see here in a little bit when they update who the 15 will be, but kind of where the super regionals will be and all that. But yeah, Jackson says love the added motivation. Yeah, and you know what? This team doesn't need any added motivation, but you're correct. Anything that kind of puts a little thorn in your side as a team that's won 3 natties, of course you're going to get a little fired up. And Chief T-Bird, by the way, I'll say this about him. I'm going to do some research after this live, but they got a really good pitcher. So that would be my biggest takeaway from Boston. They've won that many in a row, and the record's 52-4, but they have an outstanding
52-4-1 in it.
They do. What?
52-4-1. Is that right?
I know.
Yes. Boston University on a 11-game win streak right now. You mentioned the pitching, Jay. It's just a 3.
I thought they were on like a 23-game unbeaten streak.
According to their website, it says 11. I'm looking at it right now. But pitching staff, very, very, very good. Again, mid-major, so how is that going to translate against Oklahoma? But a team ERA of 1.26 between 3 pitchers. That's an elite pitching staff. That's I think that's the most interesting draw for Oklahoma is a mid-major as good as Boston University.
Right. And Hunter, maybe you can go through the process. I mean, it's not single elimination, the bomb. It's double elimination, here at the regional. But hey, Boston's got to get by Oregon first. So there is that. But the other thing is there's usually a mid-major team. Everyone remembers James Madison. That's kind of the one that everyone wants to always go to, but there usually is a mid-major team. I did find it interesting, and I'm not saying anything really about it, but when they showed the Boston University players, it was almost like they were shocked they were back at OU. This isn't the first time they've been in Norman. And there was a little bit of I don't know. I don't want to look into speculation, but it was interesting, the reaction. I also thought OU's reaction was interesting a little bit just from the outside. Now, obviously, they were expected there. Were they thinking they were getting a 1? I think the pressure now is all on Texas because everyone's talking about them as the number 1 overall seed. Look, we know that that's likely a good chance that these two teams are going to see each other in the World Series championship.
Hey, Chief, that is a great matchup. I'll tell. Me and Hunter were talking about this before. I want to know part of Miami of Ohio. They have a hitter that's hit 35 bombs. Okay, 35 bombs in one season. She's unbelievable. They can put up a ton of runs. That's going to be a tough out. You're right.
Where's Louisiana, Hunter?
That has not been revealed yet. Okay. They're going to be a host, most likely. I'd be shocked if Louisiana is not hosting. So that's one to watch. Right now they're at 7. So when you get down to that 13 range, where does Louisiana fall in? Do they get 15? And that means if everything goes to plan, they're in Norman in 2 weeks. I guess we'll see. But yeah, Miami, Ohio, very tough draw for Tennessee because, I mean, that team can upset anyone with just how much power they have in their lineup.
Yeah, and the bomb asked earlier about the process. Basically, bomb, double elimination for the regionals. You move on to the super regionals. It would be best 2 out of 3 in the super regionals. That's how it works. Then you move to the World Series with the final 8. That's kind of the process of it. So I've always thought, I mean, this is not just coming from an OU here, but if you're any team, this, to me, the most important part of regional and super regional, win your first game. I mean, if you win your first game, you don't have to drop down to that loser bracket in the first regional. The second region, super regional, you win the first game, you're going to lose back to back. So that to me is always, and I know for OU it's kind of been cakewalks in most of these, but what I'm saying is these teams, that to me is the biggest part of these regional super regionals. You can't lose right away and have to drop all the way down. So
and Hunter, you mentioned Louisiana. If they were to be seated here at 15, which we'll find out pretty soon. And you were saying if things go to plan, so just to reiterate a couple things, the bomb asked about how the process works as well. After the regional, going to the super regional, you're pretty much looking like a quarter of the March Madness bracket: 116, 215, 314, 413, right? 512, 611, 710, and 8 versus 9. And it's best 2 out of 3 at that place.
That's if everything went to
right. Yeah. Right.
The seeding doesn't change though. It's the winner of the 1 seed regional versus the winner of Correct. The 16 seed, and on and on and on. But yeah, Jay, you mentioned how important it is to win that first game. Remember UCLA last year? I believe they lost to Grand Canyon that first day, and they ended up losing that regional because, I mean, going to that loser bracket, loser side of the bracket after 1 game, it's a tough road. I mean, from this point on, you're playing a very good softball team. There's 64 really good softball teams in this bracket. You do not want to put yourself in a position where you're having to fight off elimination game by game.
Hey, are either one of you, because this has been in my thoughts and I just can't get out of my thoughts on this OU team. They're so used to Marita Hines Field. This will be the first postseason game in Love's Field. And, there has been a little bit of, there's been more losses there, maybe especially than anticipated. Is there going to be any kind of just homesick feeling away from Marita Hines, man? I for one, wouldn't mind if they open that place back up just for this regional. I know it's not going to happen, but
I think it's a little bit too late for that at this point. It's May 12th right now when we're talking. The first game's going to be May 17th.
Yeah.
The field opened March 1st. That's 2.5 months. You kind of got to, I mean, I know it is a big adjustment. It's tough to go to a new field that at the time they first played their game, they'd never been on the field before. But more and more stuff is getting done to where they're able to practice there now consistently. So I think it's time to move on from that narrative.
Hey, and the field, whatever, it's between the white lines. I mean, it's like any game. Atmosphere may be a little different, whatever. You get in there, it's the same. You're trying to hit a softball, and that's all it is. I think mentally, the thing I think was a mental kind of thing for Oklahoma that helped them was, I think, the Oklahoma City. I think they just love Hall of Fame Stadium there, whatever they're calling it now. But I think that's where they play their best, and that's you saw this. What's that?
You can't say those two things in the same sentence, dude.
Yeah, I'm kind of confused.
You can't say it's all about between the white lines, but mentally they went to a Hall of Fame Stadium and it really helped.
No, I'm saying
it doesn't help. You're saying.
What I'm saying is it doesn't matter once you get on the field. I'm just saying I think they feel really comfortable at Hall of Fame Stadium. Obviously, they've won 3 natties in a row, Jeremy. They do really well in the World Series. That's all I'm saying. I think
I get that.
To do with the actual game.
Duke left out of the top 8, guys. Surprised?
No,
not that surprised. Not that surprised.
I believe from what I was reading and listening to yesterday, they have 1 top 10 matchup all year. That was Oklahoma.
Right.
First end of the year, Puerto Vallarta, they lost, 3-1, 3-0, something like
Who
that.
came in at 8?
Missouri. Wait, no, Missouri at 7, Stanford at 8. Sorry.
Stanford. Hey, do you think all 13 SEC are getting in?
I feel like they probably should.
There wasn't
the big thing with brackets, we all know it for basketball, is the bubble. Is their bids stolen? There wasn't really any big time stolen bids this year. I feel like you should put all the SEC teams in.
Hey, don't you think though? So if, let's just say everything goes paper, exactly how it's supposed to. Stanford's 8, Texas is 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
First round matchup of the World Series.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Yep. OU stayed away from Stanford is what I'm saying. If everything goes paper.
If everything goes to plan, yes, but I mean, I think regardless of who you're playing,
top 8, they're all going to be good.
Exactly. At that point,
I get it, Jay, but Kennedy is different. Is all I'm saying. And Texas would have to see her first. Is all I'm saying.
Who was 7?
Missouri.
Oh yeah,
I mean, come on now, guys. If 1 through 8 goes as planned, OU stays away from Kennedy. It's massive.
For one game.
I get it, Jay. It's massive.
I don't know about massive, but Kennedy is a very good.
She's probably the best pitcher right now.
Let me say this: if y'all remember right, when OU had to come back from James Madison, you remember that in the World Series? It's different. The competition of the top 8 this year, the World Series, I think is going to be better than it's been. Maybe. I mean, I just think the competition, the parity of college softball is so much better than it's been that losing a game right off the bat, for instance, if Texas were to play Stanford and to lose right away, to come all the way back is going to be very tough. I think this year, I just think there's too many good teams. You got to be hitting on all cylinders and you got to win those early games and stay out of that. You know what I mean?
I think this year, I mean, it's the top 8 is as good as it's been in a very long time. I mean, you have Duke that's not a top 8 team because they're a very good team. They just haven't really played anybody. You look at that top 8, I think any given one of those teams has a good chance of winning a national championship, making it to the finals in Oklahoma City.
Hey, who's your surprise team to make a run?
I haven't looked at the bracket enough to say that.
I don't need to look. I'm just asking, like, Tennessee. Can Tennessee do it, guys?
I'm not sold on Tennessee, Jay. Fair. I do think a team like Washington.
Hey, Gary, that's interesting. I did notice the difference, and
that's what I said.
Yeah, and Sydney says strength of schedule must have been the reason Texas is number 1 seed. Hunter, we talked about this earlier, the debate. OU split the season series with Texas. 3 of those games were in Texas. OU split them 2-2. And then record-wise, very similar. So that, I think, probably did put them in that spot. Would you not agree?
Yeah, strength of schedule is what it really goes down to. They have you mentioned the split. Texas did win the regular season series. Oklahoma wins the Big 12 championship against them. But look at who Texas played non-conference wise. Oklahoma, really, they have Duke and Washington. Like those are then you're starting to get down to what? Miami, Ohio, Louisiana. You look at Texas, they've played Stanford. They played a lot of top teams early on. They also did lose the series to Oklahoma State. But then if you're comparing that, they lost it on the road. Oklahoma lost Oklahoma State at home. I think that's something that was evaluated there as well.
Hey, one thing real quick. Texas, though, against Oklahoma in 4 games scored 6 runs total.
Yeah, OU pitched really well against Texas, guys.
They did.
And listen, I know, Jay, you mentioned the parity. I know the commentators there were also mentioning parity and how more equal it is throughout the brackets. But I will say this. If OU plays to their ability, they should not lose. I mean, let's just call it what it is. No one's got better players. No one's got better leadership. The only thing that could change it is just like James Madison that one year. You get one pitcher that is just shutting everyone down. It changes things. That's pretty much the only way it's going to happen, unless OU loses it themselves.
No,
OU is still the team to beat, even though they're sitting at 2. They are the team to beat. Period. Okay. Bar none. I don't care who's number 1.
Jeremy, I understand, but here's what I'll say the difference is between this year's team, in my opinion. I know they're pitching great. They do. But you can't tell me that they're Deal or Maxwell could go out there and could have a bad outing. I'm just telling you, I am not sitting here thinking like last year. I honestly, when Jordy Ball went out there, I didn't think anybody's going to hit her. I do think they're hittable, but I do think the way they're pitching right now, if they continue the pitching, the way the bats are coming around, I don't think they'll be beat, Jerm. I think they'll win another inning. I agree with that. I'm just saying I'm not 100% sold that they're going to just go through this and not have any bad outings pitching-wise. And if you get matched up with somebody who's hitting the ball really well and get a big lead, I'm just saying.
And I'm also just going to say that in the past with Juarez and some other ones, all it also takes is one person getting – who? Troutwine. Hope Troutwine. I mean, someone has the best 2-3 weeks of their life – and Jordy Ball had that last year, Jay. I mean, she was absolutely dominant. She had a couple games in the regular season. She wasn't as dominant. She got on the roll, and they pretty much said, we're going with you. And Patty Gasso is not afraid to just say, we're going with you the rest of the way. Who's it going to be? That's the question.
Well, Maxwell's been great, and Deal starting has been unbelievable. It's just when she's come out of the pen that she hasn't pitched well. You go look at her last 4 starts. I mean, there was a lot of those games she was almost throwing no-nos. So she was pretty unhittable in a lot of that. So, and I do think the move with Nicole May would be bullpen. I really do. I think what she did yesterday and what she does through the first time through the order, I think she's really good. So I don't know if that's something they're going to keep or if they're going to move her to another starter a game. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
You think Oregon beats Boston, Hunter?
Game 1, I'm going no.
I'm going Boston.
I'm going Boston that first game. I mean, look at the pitching that they have.
Yeah.
They can keep the ball in the yard. They got a lineup that can hit the ball really well as well. Doesn't matter what conference you're in. 52-4-1 is just unbelievable. That's a very talented team, and I think they pull off the upset.
Hey, also, Texas bracket, Northwestern, by the way, Big Ten champs, led the Big Ten in hitting and pitching. ERA and
I thought Michigan won the Big Ten.
Maybe they won the tournament. I'm just saying regular season. I thought Northwestern won. I'd have to look it up. I just thought I heard that on the broadcast.
Hey, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying. I think people and listen, OU fans. I know for one, I think the biggest game. And again, this is so much coach speak. I get it. The first game out of the chute, if OU goes out there and wins barely, it's going to cause some of those demons in their head to think maybe we're not as good as last year. If they continue the streak they're on and they keep rolling, I think the Cleveland State game is big, guys. You got to go in there and do what you're supposed to do early so that when you play Boston, Oregon, you don't maybe have some thoughts.
Yeah.
Not that they will because they have so many seniors.
Yeah, but you look at it, they've been off to a hot start. I mean, the whole Big 12 tournament, they scored 2 to 5 runs every first inning. And that, to me, is key to get a lead. And then with their pitching staff, usually if you go look at it this year, when they got leads, it was except maybe the OSU series, they kind of allowed a lot. But you're right. It is key to get off to a good start. I don't think Cleveland State is going to be any issue at all. I mean, that should not be an issue. So
Every SEC team is seeded, so they're in the top 16. There's 13 SEC schools.
Correct. 13 are in.
Seemingly.
So who's 15? Have they announced it yet?
We're at 12 right now with Arkansas. So
you had Missouri 7, Tennessee was 3 or 4?
Tennessee was 3.
3, yeah. OSU 4?
5.
I'm not. OSU's a good team, but they're going to have to prove it to me in the postseason.
I think they're a very good team. I'm shocked they didn't fall a little farther because losing to BYU there.
Do they get in, BYU?
I think they do.
Yet, but again, don't quote me on it.
And that would be a tough matchup for someone.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I will say this about having so many seniors, and this, again, it is great to have seniors, but there's also something to be said when you know that your entire career is almost over. Like, it adds some emotion. Correct. And some other things. Now, for some people, it causes them to, play better. But for some, I've witnessed it. Firsthand experience of seniors where it's the emotion of the moment, knowing it's in the end, it gets you off your game a little bit. And I think that could be something to keep an eye on. I hope that's not the case, but all these other years you can say, well, we got next year. You don't. You're going to put the glove up. You're going to put the cleats up. It's over for some of them. That can affect playing.
Yeah, real quick, Louisiana, as Chief T-Bird puts in the chat, is the 13 seed, so not going.
Yeah, that's good.
Hey, and somebody asked a question earlier about did they take more consideration of the regular season or postseason? Perfect example. Tennessee didn't win a game in their postseason tournament. OSU did not win a game in the postseason tournament. I don't think it hurt those teams that much. So maybe a seed. They might have dropped a seeding, probably.
Yeah. Real quick, just looking at some of the other regionals. Stillwater, Oklahoma State. It's pretty tough regional. Getting Kentucky, Michigan, and Northern Colorado. Michigan just won the Big Ten tournament. Again, Big Ten, not necessarily a softball conference. Baylor just made it into the Louisiana regional, by the way. So,
wow,
another Big 12 school in there. And then going to the UCLA regional real quick. Grand Canyon back in it. So, that's interesting.
Back in the same regional as UCLA.
I'm pretty sure it was Grand Canyon last year. Let me confirm. But
I thought it was Grand Canyon, Hunter. Unless Grand Canyon beat Washington. I can't recall. I think it was UCLA, though.
Yeah, it was UCLA last year that they beat, and they got them again. So
that's hilarious.
I'm shocked they did it.
Revenge factor for UCLA, though.
I thought UCLA would kind of get that blue blood benefit of not getting a team that sent you home a year ago.
You think having a former OU staff member played any role in Oregon get seated in Oklahoma?
There were a lot of pundits that were saying Oregon was going to be in Oklahoma's region.
There were.
You got to realize, guys, it so much is based on seeding, but also regionality, and there's a lot of it that goes into it, just like the NCAA basketball team.
Well, if regionality was a part of it, then Oregon wouldn't be in Norman.
Nor would Boston.
No, but I'm saying you can't go to another region. Never mind.
What,
you don't
can't go. Okay, can't go to a Pac-12. Okay, I got
exactly.
You. Okay. I think it more just pans out to kind of the way the bracket works, where it's 1 through 16, and then 2 through 32 are your 17 through 32 are your 2 seeds, and Oregon, I would say, was viewed as the 18th best team in the country.
Bama 14. So how many SEC teams are ranked in the top 14?
It's got to be 7.
Let me count it up for you guys.
I mean,
Tennessee, Arkansas.
Sooner legend. Our girls are seated 2nd. The regional begins Friday night, 5:30 for the first game, 7 o'clock for the second one. Actually, I think it's 4:30 and 7 if it's Eastern. But OU will play Cleveland State, winners of the Horizon League tournament today. They just won that. And then the other two teams in OU's region is Boston University, who they are one of the hottest teams in the country, and Oregon. So that's where it is. Texas is the #1 seed, Sooner Legend.
So 7 out of the top 15 are SEC teams.
Who's 15?
Florida State. So,
Clarity.
Wow.
Yeah, I did not expect to see them there.
Wow. That's
a good
pretty
15
good, tough
seed.
super regional. I know they've struggled this year, but still, it's a big name.
43 and 14 on the year too. Like that's a pretty good record. So
rematch of the World Series championship.
It is.
Who does Texas play first? I can't remember. It's not Siena, is it? Siena State or I don't recall.
Hey,
Hunter will look at it.
Hunter, while you're looking at it, who's all in that Florida State regional?
Siena is who they played.
Yeah,
right now, for what I can see, UCF and Auburn as well.
In the Florida State?
Yeah, in the Florida State region.
Florida State's going to come out of that. I mean,
oh yeah, I think Florida State is going to start clicking on all cylinders again. I mean,
yeah, Jocelyn Erickson
made it to the ACC championship, I believe. And I mean, that's just one of those teams when May comes around, they are going to be playing some really good softball. And I think their chances to Oklahoma City are always there, regardless of where they get seated.
For sure. Sydney, you're correct. Jocelyn Erickson had a phenomenal year. I do want to say, notice the dichotomy of Texas and OU, guys. Texas, the youngest team maybe in the tournament. OU definitely got to be oldest, or if not one of the oldest in the tournament. They're 1 and 2. They're cross-state rivals. The Red River runs between them. There's a lot of interesting things of Texas and OU.
Yeah, real quick, Texas A&M 16, so 8 out of the 16 are SEC schools. If this was a year in the future, it would be 10 out of 16 SEC schools.
It just means more. Hey, so that means Texas versus Texas A&M possibly.
That will be the series like that. It's interesting to see. I know we talked about Missouri earlier. Does that rivalry kind of transition from football to softball?
I don't think it does.
I mean, I think Texas A&M, it really does. Like
for them, yeah, but not Missouri.
Yeah, probably not.
Hey.
So think about this. The first, if everything goes again like it's supposed to, it's Texas A&M, it's OU Florida State, it's Tennessee Bama.
Yeah. Hey.
And who's 4-13? That's some good matchups.
Florida and Louisiana at 13.
Hey, real quick, Hunter, if you could look it up, I'm going to answer this question from Mike, but if you could, in a minute, go through the top 8 seeds, because if it went, that would be your World Series. Like if it was seeded, you know what I mean? Who would be the top 8?
Yeah, before we get off here, do that.
And Mike, never have I ever seen it, and never will I think we will see it again. I think that's something that I've never seen it personally. I'm sure it might have happened maybe once or twice, but you don't see inside the park home runs very often, especially grand slams.
Yeah, real quick before I get into that, great call by Toby Rowland on the broadcast last night. And what was the Baylor center fielder doing? You cannot dive for a ball with bases loaded. You got to just let the run score, especially when you got speed like Bryce Magic. So going from 1 through 8, you got Texas at 1, Oklahoma 2, Tennessee at 3, Florida 4, Oklahoma State at 5, UCLA at 6, Missouri at 7, and Stanford at 8.
So here's what I would say. I think out of those 8 teams, if those 8 teams made it to the World Series, to me, OU, Texas, and Stanford, those 3, I think are the teams to beat, because I just think Canada's that good that can get you all the way there. But I think it's very realistic that OU and Texas are playing for a natty. I think that's, I know it's 1 versus 2. Oh, that's just chalk, Jason. Yeah, easy. But it doesn't always happen that way. But I do think this year, very realistic that could be happening.
Yeah. It's not going to go chalk. We do know that.
Probably not.
There's going to be upsets, but I absolutely love where OU's at right now. Not that they need any more motivation, but now there's extra. I think it's a great place. I can't wait to get started. The World Series is May 30th, I believe, is when that begins. So it's all going to be here. I mean, the next 3 weeks are going to be fun, guys.
Yeah, it's gonna fly by the next 3 weeks. You got the regionals this next weekend, and then the super regionals. So this is what you live for softball. This is mayhem, they call it. It's not March Madness. It's mayhem, whatever they want to call it. But Jimmy says Texas will fold. The pressure will be too much. I do think them being so young, that could affect them. Definitely, it could. They were young last year, though. So
yeah, I think it. Yeah, obviously it could affect them. Well, last year they didn't even make it to the World Series, but I think they get to Oklahoma City. I think they've been the clear cut number one. I mean, really by everybody since that first weekend in April when they beat Oklahoma. So I think they make it.
Yeah, appreciate you dropping all that info in there, Hunter, for us, so we can sit there and process this all. Everyone, thanks for being on here. What, Jay? You're laughing.
I was laughing at Sydney's comment.
Oh, yeah. Hey, thanks for being on here. I promise you there'll be a lot of softball content in the next 3 weeks coming from Sooner Surge. Well, we've done it all year. We'll continue. It's going to ramp up even more. Appreciate you being on this live. You can always check this out again afterwards. It doesn't have to be live, but thanks for being on here tonight as we talk through these regional assignments, and can't wait to spend more time talking softball with you. Appreciate it. Till next time. Boomer.
Sooner.